Welcome to lesson number 2, the newsroom workflow, sub-editors, and the editing symbols. Okay, so today we'll be looking at some critical aspect of things, and this is probably one of the most detailed sessions we'll be having. So I'm still your lecturer, teacher, whatever you call it. If you want to stay connected, please use the QR code to stay connected. Before we dive into today's session, you've been with me for a while now, and then I'll need you to, engage, check in, tell me what do you know? What do you know? Check in. For a student, this is a way to mark your attendance to show that you're here. From the last session, how was it? Put it in the comments. What did you learn from the last session? And check yourself in. All right. Thank you. So today we'll be covering something somewhat different, building up to what we did the last time. And we'll be looking at the newsroom workflow. We'll be looking at the roles and responsibilities of a sub editor, as well as I'll be introducing you to the basic editing symbols. So, ride with me and enjoy today's session. Okay, now, first, I would also include some very practical aspect of things. So, be ready for that aspect of things. Some practicals will be playing out in today's teaching. Okay, so that being said, let's take a look at the objective of today's session. Today, we'll be explaining how content move through the newsroom. We'll be identifying the roles of a sub-editor, and then we'll be, applying some basic editing and proofreading symbols to our works digitally, particularly digitally, because that's the age one time where. And then lastly, we'll learn how to understand how to edit, how editing decisions shape the final outputs in practicals. Okay. Once again, if you haven't checked in, please do so now. Okay, what we're covering today, let's take a look at them once again. What we're covering today, I've shared it with you. Do well to take the notes of the things we're covering today. And tell me, what do you already know about these things? What do you already know about these things? Put it in the comments. Put it in the comments. Let me know what you know. Let me know what you know. Okay, thank you. Now I'm just gonna take you straight on to today's lecture. All right, here's my face. I would like to ask you, think about this. Imagine that there is a breaking news happening right now, right where you are. How does that information go from a reporter's notebook to your phone screen? What processes does it pass through for it to before it gets to your mobile phone? What are the steps? What do you think? What procedures does it pass through before it gets to your mobile phone? Does it get there by magic, or does it pass through some standard of processes before it gets to your phone? This is our concern today, and we want to ensure that would make the most of it to understand how it works. You see, the news process is a structured process and it requires structured approach. So would say the newsroom workflow is a structured process through which news contents is created, reviewed, and also published. Before it gets to your phone, someone have to vet it. Someone have to ensure that what you'll be getting is original, is correct, is intact. And it has to be accurate. It should be clear, at least to the reader, and it should be timeless. No, not really timeless. It has to come to you in time. That's what I mean. Timeliness. Yeah. All right. So the basic flow is this. It goes from the reporter to the sub-editor, from the sub-editor to the editor, from the editor to what? Publication. Does that make sense? From the reporter to the sub-editor, from the sub-editor to the editor, and then to the publication. So before it gets to your phone, it needs to at least before after the reporter, two other people should look through it before it gets to you. Let's take a look at the stages. Stage one, news gathering. This is the stage of gathering, getting the news, and also reporting. And the journalists collect the information, the source, they include interview, they attend events, they analyze documents, they go through challenges such as answering questions about incomplete informations. They have to do this within a certain time frame and ensure that they filter out biases. All right. Now, the second stage will be drafting. What do? They write the initial version and then they focus on the facts to ensure that the facts are written correctly. And then they attend to the common issues such as grammar errors, poor structures, and then they talk about missing contests. You see, stage one has to do with sourcing it, the stage two, writing it, and they have to ensure as a reporter, as a training journalist who you are becoming, or media person who you'll become, you need to be able to pick out grammatical errors, ensure that your structures are good, and ensure that you're not missing out contests. Let me test you. Let's see if you've been following. What is the correct order of news workflow? Is it A, editor, reporter, sub-editor, publication, reporter, editor, sub-editor, publication, reporter, sub-editor, editor, publication, or sub-editor, reporter, editor, publication? The answer, could it be this? That is wrong. It can't be that. Think again. What would it be? It goes from the reporter to who? From the reporter, it goes to somebody. Who is that person? Think about it. Think about it. From the reporter, who does it go to next after the reporter? Put it in the chat, put it in the chat. I'm waiting. All right. Thank you. It goes to the sub editor. The sub editor takes the sub editing process and then it goes to the editor, and the editor publishes it. Send it to the publication. Now you know this. Okay, let's move on. Let's try another one. Which stage is primarily responsible for refining and correcting the news content. Reporter, sub-editing, publishing, broadcasting, or refining and correcting the news content. After that should literally come after the reporter. Correct. Sub-editing is correct. So, all right. Why is the news flow as important? Okay, this is a question. Why is the newsroom workflow important? The newsroom workflow, why is it as important as even the news process itself? Is it because it increases the number of stories published? It speeds up printing only. It eliminates need for editors, or it ensures accuracy, clarity, and quality control. Okay, the answer is it eliminates. It ensures accuracy, clarity, and also quality control. Let's take a look at stage three of this, which is sub editing. Remember, the reporter gather, writes, then sub edit. Meaning, in the first step flow, we have the reporter, sub edit, edit, and then publication. So, the first major control stage is the sub editing stage. This is followed by the editing stage. So, the sub editor reviews and they refine content. They review and they refine content. And their key responsibilities includes to correct grammar, to correct errors, to ensure that the content is clear, and they check facts. They check facts. And the last thing they do is to write headlines and captions. They write headlines and captions. This takes us to stage four, which is editorial review. The editorial review is done by the editor himself, and then it's like a final editorial control stage. Okay, what happens here is that the senior editor reviews the editor what has been sub-editor. You understand? You review the content, they look out to ensure that there's alignment with the editorial policies, ensure that the content is right, the content is appropriate, and their focus basically is to reduce legal risk so they don't get into trouble, and also to what? To reduce the chances of breaching ethical codes. So ethical consideration is very important at this stage. And of course, to ensure that the news carries what they call news value. And then this takes us to the next stage of stage five, which is the publishing stage. The publishing stage, very important. It's this is where the content is sort of released to you. You know, when I asked what are the stages, what are the things you pass through before it gets into your phone, these are the stages, and then the point of publishing is where it gets to your phone, where you get notified about the process. Okay, so the content is released to the audience. The platforms could be prints, could be magazines, could be broadcast, it could be digital, like I've said, could be online like that, and so on and so forth. So depending on what is being edited. And the key reality is that errors at this stage affects public trust. So you need to ensure that you get your editing right early before it gets to this stage. This is editing and graphics, and we're sort of looking at the fundamental aspect of things before we get to the very practical side of things. So before a graphic design becomes a graphic design, there's what we call a copy. before it is designed to become the newspaper layout, there are processes that it has gone through, sub editing and more. So if an article is poorly edited and it makes its way to the graphics designer, to the layout person, that is what they will plan. And you want to avoid that at all costs. I have a parallel course that looks closer to this, and it's presently on YouTube under courses, and then it's on layout and design. They are sort of gliding in scope with this, but you need to know that for editing and graphics, you can afford to have an error. Whatsoever error you have is what will mix it into the graphics. What is editing and graphics? We know editing is editing, like I shared in the first lesson, addition and subtraction. And graphics is, of course, the use of graphs, image, pictures, illustrations to communicate a message. So when we have a copy is like a brief that would drive, that will inform the design. So we're going to get there. But for now, what is the primary responsibility of a sub editor? Is it gathering news from sources, publishing content online, reviewing and checking content before publication, printing newspapers? Which of this? The answer is C. Reviewing, refining, and checking content for publication. All right. Next question. Which of the following should a sub editor prioritize first? Should it be verifying fact and accuracy, correcting punctuations, um, writing catchy headlines, or adjusting font styles? Which is very important. Yeah, you could correct punctuations and still have unverified parts. You could write a catchy headline and still have unverified parts. No, and then adjust font size but full of errors. So the answer will be verifying fact and accuracy. So this is very important so you don't get into trouble as a news organization. Okay, let's take a look at this. Which quality is most essential for a sub editor? Is it physical strength, drawing skills, public speaking, or attention to details? Mm. Physical strength, not really. You don't need that, but you need it as human. Drawing skills, that's not necessary for a sub editor. Public speaking, we are not speaking here, but attention to details, that's quite important. So the answer is attention to details. All right, let's define who a sub editor is. A sub editor is a professional who is responsible for refining content before publication. Yeah, that's what who they are. They work between the reporter and, of course, the editor, because they are like the linkage. So a sub editor is that person who you report to immediately after writing something, and you hand over your content to the sub editor to sort of refine, review, improve before it gets to the editor, and the editor makes a final conclusion. So I want us to do a check-in now. Let's consider this. And we're going to do this for about 6 to 8 minutes. And I want you to think like a sub editor. A reporter submits a story with poor grammar to you. And what would be your first step, and why? Why will you take that step? You submit a story, it has a poor grammar, so it has some poor grammar, weak headlines, unverified facts. What would you do first? And why would you do what you do? This is a task for you. I need you to do this now. I want you to, sort of, on your Telegram group, engage one another. Ask reply to respond to one another. It shouldn't be a one-way thing. If you're here on YouTube, let's engage, ask one another, respond to chat and more. So the question is, let's have a discussion around this. What will be your first action? What will be your second action? What will be your justification? So I'll stay on this slide for a while. A reporter submits a story to you, and you can see that there are poor grammar in there, and then there are weak headlines in there, there are unverified facts in there. What would you do first and why? Put it in the chat. What would you do and why? Don't disengage. This is a time for you to think. This is a time for you to write. This is a time for you to reflect. Don't just be idle. Don't fast forward either. Do something now. Ensure you engage, please. Do it. What would you be your first action? What would be your second action? What would be your justification? Put it in the chat. Thank you for sharing that. Now let's take a look at the core responsibilities of the sub-editors. Now, the core responsibilities of sub-editors include the fact that they edit for grammar and clarity. They fact-check content. They ensure consistency with style guards. They write headlines and captions. They detect legal and ethical risk in content. And they also have some skills that make them quite very effective. What are these skills? The skills are that they pay attention to details. They give an uncommon attention to details. They try as much as possible to attend to any sort of errors that could harm the content. So they have strong language skills, critical thinking, speed and accuracy, ethical awareness. And all of this put together makes them effective at what they do. Okay, now typical errors in news copy, which the sub editor sort of catch, include grammar mistakes, repetitions, ambiguity. You know what repetition is? When you repeat things. Ambiguity, when it's confusing and it's not very clear. Inaccurate facts, poor sentence structures. These are some of the things that the sub editor looks at. Moving on, the editing symbols are also very important. These are shorthand way of correcting without having to write sentences. If you want to know more about this, look out for the video I'll put in the description. I'll particularly timestamp the moment where I taught about it in another course, so I don't have to repeat this here. So we have the caret signs, we have the insert signs, we have the transpose sign, we have the capitalization sign, we have the bolding sign, we have the stats sign, meaning that keep it in place. So these are used in editing, sub-editing, and more. However, today I'll be describing and focusing more on the digital way of doing things. So why are these editing symbols important? They help provide clear instructions for corrections. They save time in manual editing and they ensure consistency across editing, across editors, sort of things. So when Mr. A is using the same sign, Mr. B is using the same sign, you're not having troubles comprehending what they're trying to say. So it's like a uniform thing. Okay. Attempt this question. What is the main purpose of editing symbols? To decorate text, to replace editors, to provide clear corrections, to provide clear corrections instructions, to write headlines. Which of these? To provide clear corrections instructions. Yeah, that's it. All right. Now, the key editing symbols, like I've mentioned, includes delete, insert, transpose, capitalize, lowercase, new paragraph, bolding, and all of these things. These details are also available using the link in the description. And if you want to read more, there is a chapter in my monograph that addresses. I'll put it in the description too. Thank you. All right. Um, let's take care of this transition from digital to let's transit to digital editing. Digital editing uses track changes, not necessarily symbols, and this is not happening digitally, which I'm going to describe in a moment for you guys, so you to take advantage and know more about. So what we do here is that we're going to learn about the tools in Microsoft Word. You could use Google Docs for the same purpose, but today I'll be focusing on Microsoft Word. But then before then, and let's take a look at this. Which tool is commonly used today instead of manual editing symbols? Is it typewriter, Microsoft Word, track changes, calculator, printer? We, you know the answer already. So it's Microsoft Word track changes. Don't forget that Microsoft Word track changes, which is what we're going to describe in a bit. And then which of the following is an example of an editing action? Is it publishing a story, intervening the source, correcting grammatical error, printing errors? This sounds like a silly question, but it's correcting grammatical errors. So, all right, let's do something now. I'm going to provide you with a flowed paragraph. I'm going to mark the corrections using editing symbols, and then we'll do something interesting. So, before we do that, I would like to engage you with some hands-on exercise. Uh, d- 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 let's move on to the hands-on exercise. On the next slide, I need you to look at this particularly poor written paragraph and make effort to correct it. Do that. Do that. Try. Can you pick the errors? Can you see the mistakes? Can you see the grammatical errors? Can you see the agreement errors? Can you see the capitalization errors? Yeah. You can see punctuation errors in there, clarity errors, styles errors. Attempt this. I'll stay on here for about 2 more minutes and then let's see before we press on. Attempt it, attempt it. Yes. If you like, break it in paragraph if that makes sense. Check out for the capitalization errors, the proper nouns, the commas, the context issues. You can rewrite some things, paraphrase it. Check out for sharpness, lack of precision. Look for wordiness when it is too wordy. Look for repetition. For example, weak phrases such as yesterday announced instead of announced yesterday. Look out for the spelling of Nigeria. Look out for how they said teachers is, that's a subject verb disagreement. Look out for they is planning. That's a grammatical error. Okay, let's bring this home. All right, this is a text here. And I'll be doing the same thing here and giving you some very real-time edits. For you to do this, go to your Microsoft Word, click on track changes. You toggle it on and off. When it is somewhat gray, it means it's active. And you can begin editing. Anything you change here will be recorded. So have a look at it. If you're here, then you're cool. So the federal, I can see F. The F should be in initial caps, not small case. So, and then the same as the G. Yes. So the federal government yesterday announced D. Yes. That they are planning to introduce I don't think, I would say, the federal government yesterday announced plans to introduce. You see, when I say that they are planning to, it sounds childish. It sounds childish. Yes. So introduce a looking at that, introduce a new education policy that will improve. That doesn't look good. So let's see what works here. You're still reading back and forth to see for the flow, the connection, and this is very important. So introduce a new education policy aimed at improving aimed at improving. That sounds more like it. Aimed at improving. Aimed at improving student performance across Nigeria. Full stop. And then the next paragraph, I sort of break that down. So it continues from where it stopped. Yeah, the Minister of Education stated that, see, the ones without underline is going, the one with underline stays. Stated that the policy focuses. That is a typographic error. I can see pick something there. So it's very, very important that one look at things over and over again. Ideally, that should be stated that the policy focused on, or the policies focus on, or the policy focuses on digital learning and teachers training. Full stop. However, many schools lack computer facilities, and several teachers are not properly trained, which make or making the making implementation difficult. That could be another paragraph. Students, capital letter S, in rural area are most are the most are expected to be the most affected. Expected to be the most affected by these challenges. Okay, this looks good by these challenges. Now, this looks rough, but this is the work of a sub editor. This is what they do every day. This is what they spend their time and most of their day doing. They do this to correct errors. They do this to ensure that there is clarity. They do this to ensure that the meaning is preserved and conveyed. So have a look at this. I'm still trying to figure out some things and I'm trying to show you two ways. You can delete a letter and then it can affect the entire word by changing it, or if you highlight a letter and change, it can affect the entire word. If you just deleted the letter and then insert, it will work for all. So this is what it looks like. And remember, I'm using track changes. That's why you're seeing the yellows, is blah blah blah. This is how editing is done digitally. Okay, this is another sort of demonstration of how things sort of work. Mm. Take a look at this. Um, I'm trying to show you the function, trackers, the options that are available. We have the all markups there, reviewing pan. I'm just clicking on the all markups and changing to simple. This is the final edit. Even in this final edit, I can still see an error. This is what original looks like. And we have the markups, which I can change to show me simple markup. I can change it to give me another option of the entire sort of markup with the balloon, which you can see everything I've changed. You have the reviewing pan that can come on the right or at the bottom, depending on what I want. That's the one on the left, sorry. And then we have option for the bottom, just to show things if you want to give some more details. So apart from this, you have the one for the left hand side, which sort of is a bit compact. I think I like that where I need to use it. And then this is where you're showing markup. Markups are your corrections. And you can, of course, accept changes, reject changes. And in this instance, I would like to first save my document. Let's save the document. So we have it as a working the same. So you won't see the pop-up or you see the file name changed. Doc one is going to change to whatsoever I determine it to be. All right. So it's saving already. And it takes a bit of time because it's saving to cloud. Okay. So that's the original markup. And then but the original text, sorry. And then we have the review that I've shown you earlier. Then you can come to track changes. You can see the changes that have been done. You can accept, you can reject. So we're just going to accept a few changes now. Watch that. Looking at that F, you see that I've accepted it. The government, the G in the government, I've accepted it. So as you're accepting, it is leaving, it is reducing. So, and you can as well decide to accept all. See, that's another error there. Plans to, there's a space in there. It's not supposed to be. So I've edited that and I have to accept it again. So now you need to move on with that until you do all. But then I want to accept all at a go. So that's me selecting all. You really can see that pop up. So please engage that in your Word document and see you see the option. Under the accept this thing, there's accept changes one after the other, accept and stop tracking. And there's accept all and stop tracking too, or accept all and yeah, and move on, So depending. So look at that stated that you see why there's a different levels of editing. There is sub editing, there's main editing. At my sub editing, I probably didn't catch the fact that I need to put policies at policy, but I think I noted it when I was talking. Just for this is for teaching purpose only. So stated that the policies focuses, that is wrong. It should be policies focus or policy focuses. It is either policies focuses or policies focus. So in this case, I'll stick with policies focus. Yeah, this one is correct. If there are more than one policy. If it is just a single policy, I could say policy focuses. So now you can see the original, you can see the no markup, and then I can show you more things around this and what it looks like eventually. All right. Thank you for learning that with me. Do some practice too. So this is what it looks like. This is what it looks like originally, and yeah, these are the corrections. This side all markup, and when you select, this is what it looks like when the sub editor has done some things or the editor, and that is what it looks like below. It's the finished work. You understand? It's showing it using simple markup. And then we have the one with no markup versus the original. I see. Look at the difference. And look at the works that have been put into this. This is you need to start learning how to do this as an editor to ensure that you're sort of doing the right thing. All right. So this is the options I showed you where you can see all revisions and then on the bottom and then on the side and then once again look at what we've got. Look at what we've got. That's the edited version up there and the unedited below. And here is the edited version on my slide. Okay. What have we done here? We change announce, which is an incorrect tense. We changed it to announced. We change there is planning. It's not. This is they are. And then policy or focus. No, policy focuses or policies focus. So school does not. These are some of the things you can read through that and then make sense of it. Thank you. Nigeria should be in capital letter N, not small letter n, which is what we've done. All right, let's take a quick quiz. What is the first step in effective editing? Is it writing the headline, publishing the content, identifying and understanding errors, or adding images? Effective editing. Will it be all about writing headline? Will it be all about publishing content? Will it be identifying and understanding errors, or will it be adding images? The answer is identifying and understanding errors. Okay, let's move on. Why is it important to break long sentences into during editing? Yes, it helps. Is it to avoid punctuation, to make text longer, to reduce printing costs, or to improve clarity and readability? The answer will be to improve clarity and readability. Okay, what's the main goal of editing? To increase word count, to impress editor, to make text complex, to improve clarity, accuracy, and meaning. Absolutely, that is the answer D. So today we have been able to learn some basic things and newsroom workflow. It ensured structured communication, sub editing are critical to quality control. Editing symbols, standardized corrections, and then editing improve clarity, it improve accuracy, and it also improve credibility. I have an assignment for you. I yes, I have an assignment for you. So I want you to roughly draft a short news article with errors and ensure that there are errors anywhere. There's no way you can even draft it without an error. And don't use AI. You can, of course, use AI to draft a rough, a rough draft of any story about anything, just for you to see, and then edit the content that has been generated with mistakes. Apply at least 5 editing corrections, symbols which are short of shares, and then submit both. Use the QR code, scan it to use submit. So you can determine your text yourself. You can use AI to generate one wrong thing, and and then some of you will go ahead to use AI to correct it. Just ensure that it is bolded, that you are able to pick the errors and know it. My goal is to take you through the process for you to know. It's your choice to take responsibility or to be irresponsible. So learn responsibly using AI. Okay, let's construct the news flow. How does it work? How does the news flow work? So I want you to arrange this in the correct order. We did this earlier. Which is the first one? Which is the second one? Which is the third one? And which is the last one? All right, beautiful. Thank you for sharing that. It's from the reporter to the sub editor to the editor, editor to publication. We did this earlier. All right. Now I want you to sort of put yourself in a position of reflection. Think about it. Engage yourself in the chat. I've actually provided you the answer. Why is it like that? Why should it be that way? Why shouldn't the reporter, editor, sub editor, after all, sub is coming after editor and then publication? So I'm going to leave you for another sort of 2 minutes. Ask yourself, arrange it in the chat. Arrange it in the chat. In Telegram chat. Yes. Put it in the correct order in the Telegram chat. Respond, respond, respond. Have some discussions, engage. Ensure you are responding, you are replying to somebody. Agree, disagree. Don't just send your own response alone. Respond, reply to somebody. Tag somebody, mention somebody. That's how to discuss. That's how peer works. Okay, I'll stop here. All right. The correct answer would be a reporter, sub editor, editor, and then publication. Okay, it's time for us to wrap this up. Check out. Ask some questions. Ask some questions. If you don't have question, I will ask you question. Ask questions. Scan it. Scan the QR code. I have question for you if you didn't ask me question. And for some of you who have asked, I still have question for you. Where is the highest risk of error? Is it at the what stage is it? At which stage is the most meaning shaped? At which stage is the most is the meaning most shaped sort of? What happens if the sub editor fails in their role? Remember that the sub editor is the key control point. Errors at this stage multiplies downstream. Yes, if the sub editor didn't catch it, it's likely to make make it into the publication because sometimes the editor just trusts the sub editor. So editing is not just correction, it is about quality assurance. Okay, thank you. Now it's time to check out. Check out. Thank you. Check out. All right. If you've been enjoying the lecture, do well to engage, like, share, subscribe, subscribe, subscribe. And in my next class, we'll be looking at the newsroom. What am I saying? We've done this already. Let's check out. I didn't update the last slide. Apologies. All right. Do well to ask questions where you need to ask questions, and then we'll catch up. Ask your questions there. We'll catch up in the next class or in our live chat. Cheers and have a good day. Bye bye.